Hey everyone, this is Patrick, and it is time once again for me to go over my first reactions to this past Friday's metal releases. This was a really fun week. There was lots of discussion on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram about one of the biggest releases this year in metal so far. Due to other reviews that I saw on YouTube, I ended up checking out a band that I haven't checked out in years, a band that I was not a fan of, but do actually enjoy the albums that came out from that band on Friday. I kept finding some gems, and then the last two that I listened to were my favorite of the week, and they were two of my favorite albums so far this year. So excited to talk to you all about what I discovered this week. First up is a band called Ascended Dead, and Ascended Dead are a dirty, rotten, filthy, noisy, a little bit off the rails death metal band. They are currently located in Portland, Oregon. This is Evenfall of the Apocalypse. This is their second full length. $20 Spin has now picked them up. 11 tracks, 41 minutes, and 6 seconds of music. This is like asphyx, obscene, pestilence, and atheist forged through fire into war death metal. Corin's drumming is world class. This album gets better towards the end. The standout track is Visceral Strike. Overall, though, however, this is not something that I really enjoyed. It has all the ingredients that I like. I just didn't end up really enjoying my listen very much, but I am going to give this a 7 out of 10 still. Definitely check this out if you like what 20 Book Spin does, if you like aggressive, fast death metal. Give this a chance. You might like this more than myself. Up next is uh, Thanatomass, Hades. This was out on LVX Morgenstern. They're from Russia. I checked this out because of the album art. It's black metal. This is 7 tracks, 43 minutes, and 32 seconds of music. And immediately I thought of the the EP that came out last year from Berater. I thought of Titan Blood. This sounds live to tape. You get 4 big songs broken up by seamless instrumentals. Calls to mind even early speed metal. A little bit of that grave miasma atmosphere, but more vicious. The drums are organic and old school sounding. Production does hamper this. Like I said, it sounds like it's live in the studio, and that's not a fault, but it's a little bit lo-fi. Again, and I don't mind that quite often, but I'm going to have to give it to 7.2, which means I will check it out again sometime this year, but I'm not eager to. I did not enjoy it all that much while I was listening to it, but I think it has some elements that made me want to revisit it, so I gave it a 7.2 out of 10. Next up, now this is the big release of the week, Cattle Decapitation, Terrasite, out on Metal Blade Records. Huge band, right? They're from San Diego, California. They have straddled gore grind, grindcore, to death grind. Now I think they have come to a blend. I'm going to call this atmospheric technical death metal. And I enjoyed discussing this online this week. My very first reaction, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I ended up going back to it a couple more times. And after I went back to it a couple more times, my score actually fell a little bit. I'm going to give this a 7.4 out of 10. The pros about this album are there's a lot of pros. It has groovy riffs, yet still full of that start-stop dynamics that you like from tech death. There's a double bass blast fest coming right at you. Travis does his vocal acrobatics. It has an emotional atmosphere created with guitars and synths sometimes. The album builds into this 10-minute closer. I do like that there are fewer of those clean type choruses on this album for me. I think it has more of an impact than Death Atlas because of that. But overall, 7.4 drops it below that territory that normally makes me pick up the album physically. So I'll probably give it one more listen sometime towards the end of this year to see if I do end up really thinking I'm going to want to keep it in my library. But at this point, 7.4 out of 10 cattle decapitation for me. I guess I'll say some of the cons. The production is super clean. I don't like their drum sound at all. To me, they sound closer to Lorna Shore than most death metal, and I know that's sacrilegious to say probably about this band, but I really like how groovy it is. But yeah, overall, I just don't find myself, I don't think I'm going to revisit it after I did give it a couple of spins, 3 or 4 actually this weekend. 7.4 out of 10. Next up is a band that I mentioned, right? I did not even know these albums were coming out. I didn't expect to listen to them. I don't like this band too much. So, the Acacia Strain put out 2 albums. First, they put out Step Into the Light. 10 tracks, 23 minutes, and 32 seconds of music. This is what you know from the Acacia Strain, except they bring in some death grind. They bring in some faster, hardcore punk-influenced drums. The breakdowns on this album are closer to, I don't know, closer to death metal sludge than deathcore that I was used to 10 or so years ago. So probably my favorite Acacia Strain album that I've heard. That said, that makes it a 7.4 out of 10 for me. I did listen to it twice. It's very short. I like the energy this band brings. I always thought the vocalist Vincent was a little over the top, but they're doing it right on this album. If you like the Acacia Strain, check this out. Their other album that they put out Friday was called Failure Will Follow, and it is a doom album, and it is proper doom. 3 tracks, almost 39 minutes of music. First track features Dylan from Full of Hell. This is good. I enjoyed the listen. They know what they're doing here. It's a really cool stylistic change for them. Also going to give it a 7.4 out of 10. It's doomy, it's slow, it's claustrophobic. It is, very gloomy, depressive, heavy. Next up is Cronos Compulsion with Malicious Regression out on Caligari Records. This band's from Denver, Colorado. 5 tracks, 17 minutes of music. This is an EP. This sounds like Undeath and Incantation. I really enjoyed this EP. It's just that style that I like a lot. They always know when to pull back a little bit from that cavernous sound to give you these groovy stomping parts, sort of like the Hyperdontia EP earlier this year as well. Okay, never heard of this band, don't know anything about them. This is Moonreich with Amir out on, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that label, in France. From France, 5 tracks, almost 43 minutes of music. This was a pleasant surprise. This is what I wanted the Last Wake record to sound like. It also scratches that Gyrea itch. Amazing performances all around. Bleak, dark, atmospheric black metal that also incorporates some post-metal, some sludge. Track 1 has 2 sections that kind of sound like psychedelic progressive rock even. There's some auxiliary percussion on this album. Every song is really good. This is a really good album. 8.5 out of 10 for me. Okay. Overall, just a great album. Next up, another band I knew nothing about. I have a friend who listens to doom and sludge and stoner, and I know he has shown some of these records before, but I've never heard this band. I recognize the Maurice Lewandowski artwork. I decided to give it a chance today, this morning, on headphones, and boy, I was blown away. This is awesome. It's, as you see on the screen, it is 8 tracks, an hour and 7 minutes of music, but it never loses my interest. Other touchstones, some touchstones you might want to think of is that Thou and Mizmer collaboration LP they put out last year. You can think of Thou in general. This is great sludge doom. One song has some death metal in it. The last 5 minutes has this amazing, instantly memorable, catchy, triumphant riff almost, even though I don't know if you're triumphing, if you're victorious over what you just fought, or if the demons won, but somebody won, and it's probably not you since you were chained to the bottom of the ocean. But man, killer stuff. 9 out of 10. Love the tortured vocals. Again, they kind of sound like Thou. Sort of sounds like Jamie from Knoll. It's this piercing, tortured vocals. You can understand a lot of what he's saying though, and he repeats line after line sometimes. So you go, oh man, is that what he's saying? And yeah, really fun listen for being a sludge doom album, and it is sludgy, it is doomy. This is great. So yeah, what do you think of these albums? What else did you listen to this week that you think that I should check out? See you all in the comment section, and remember to stay heavy.